Hey folks, Nick Manning here, and I'm gonna start walking through the full stack Flutter kind of course, right? I want to show you what it's like to have a simple application where you have complete control over not only your Flutter front end, but also a Dart-based backend web service API. So I posted the sample code online already. You can see it in the show notes. And there's going to be two projects. There's going to be a front-end Flutter project and a back-end Dart-based web service API. And later in subsequent videos, we'll cover more advanced things like how to use databases, how to deploy your code. Those are all quite straightforward, but we're going to take it step by step now. The only core concepts you're going to come away with now and in this video is a couple custom libraries that I've found useful and core kind of libraries that you need to know to kind of be competent on a basic level. How to invoke and call a web service endpoint and get data from that endpoint. How to spin up a server on your local machine and kind of like expose a web service endpoint, offering up some data. So they're very basic concepts to some people, but it's important that we start with a baseline. So with that, let's get started and dive into the code. Okay, I'm really excited because today we are going to generate our front-end component, the front-end app, the Flutter app for our simple end-to-end example for full stack Flutter. So the full stack Flutter project, there's going to be two apps, a backend and a front end. The front end's Flutter, the backend's Dart. So I'm going to create the front end from completely the ground up. I'm going to just show you the steps I took to create the project, and I'm going to walk through the code. So whenever I kind of create simple Flutter apps that are just for examples or just new boilerplate projects for larger projects that I work on, I don't use the normal Flutter space create commands, right? Because that is giving me a lot of comments and code that I don't need, and it's just for example purposes, and it's a bit annoying to kind of like edit that all out, all the example comments and functionality. What I like to do is work off of a template, and I developed a template called Minimalist Flutter template. I'll open that. And what's really cool about this is that it's a very simple Flutter project with only the basics that you need. It doesn't include any other external packages or anything. It just doesn't assume anything about the needs that you have. All right. So this is a GitHub template. And the package I'm going to use is called Flutter_create. This is going to be a global Dart package, and this global Dart package means I can be anywhere on my command line, and I can just run Flutter_create, give it the path to the template URL and the name of my app, and then the project's created. It's pretty cool. So first, if you're not familiar, a little bit about how to install Dart packages and what global packages are. So this is a global package, meaning that I can call this command, this binary, from anywhere on my command line, right? But I have to have it set up properly first. So I'm going to assume you already have Flutter set up. And you probably already know Flutter already comes with Dart. It already comes with all the binaries that Dart needs. It's also going to come with the tools that Dart comes with, which is one command is called pub. Pub is a command that you use to get packages and just work with Dart packages, right? So I'm going to go over this on Windows, and I can do another separate video for Mac. I use both operating systems because I have a Mac for my laptop right now, and I use Windows for my gaming, video editing PC, but I also write code on Windows as well. So the thing is, on Windows, when you edit your environment variables, I'm going to assume you know what environment variables are. You just have to add, when you install that, you're going to have to add a special path that Dart has that caches all those global packages. And that's the following. It's user profile, app data, local pub, cache bin. I'll include this in the notes so you don't have to kind of look carefully. You're going to have to squint to see this text. I'll just include it in the show notes. But remember that you have to not only have the path to your Flutter binaries, like the Flutter command, but also in your environment variables, in the path environment variable, the path to global Dart packages. Anyway, I'll just go ahead and OK this. I'm going to open a command prompt, and I'm going to make the text really big so you can see it properly. And I'm going to review the syntax of the command. And again, this will be in the show notes. Let me paste it in first. So the command is flutter_create -u, and then the URL of your template, which is, you can use this public template that I created, and then -a, and then the name of your app. So our name of the app is called Simple E2E app, right? If you don't want to do this, just to pause for a sec, you can look at the final code for our simple end-to-end app at github.com/sceniccode/fullstackflutter. And there's a subdirectory there called simple end-to-end. It's going to have an app and a server directory, and that's kind of like the completed version of it. But I'm creating this from the ground up. Now, before I run the command, there's a quirky thing that happens on Windows at least. It will just close the command prompt if there's an error or if it completes successfully. So we'll just trust that it completes successfully and just run this command. So I'm going to hit enter. Boom, it ran the command, and let me see if it created. I'm going to open Visual Studio Code. So I use Visual Studio Code to edit most of my Flutter apps and work with Flutter because I like it a lot more than Android Studio. Visual Studio Code is cross-platform. It works very well, and it's really actively developed, and it just is not overblown with a lot of features you don't need, and it looks really nice in my opinion. So I'm going to open the project that it generated. Let me expand the text size. And when I open the project in Visual Studio Code, down here on the right, it's going to ask me, there's some package missing or out of date. Would you like to fetch them? So I can click Get Packages. Another thing you can do alternatively is open a command prompt, go into the directory of your project, and run pub get, right? You may have to run flutter space pub space get because like if you're not having Dart standalone installed on your computer and you want to use Flutter's version of Dart, anytime you want to run like any Dart binary like pub, the pub command, you have to prefix it with flutter space pub. That's just how Flutter works. So just a note there. But most of the time you work with an IDE, and main IDEs like Android Studio or Visual Studio Code you won't need to use the command line too much, if at all. You know, the IDE will say, hey, I have packages that aren't installed, and it'll give you some button to fetch them. So don't worry about that too much. So in my Pubspec YAML, this Pubspec YAML shows what packages we have installed for this project. I don't have anything special here. This is the template that I used. The only thing that I do use is a special font called Open Sans. That's just because I don't like the default font, and this just looks nicer in my opinion. So I include it here. And most projects already will use some kind of custom font. So heck, why not include a basic popular custom font here? But that's it. That's the only Flutter packages that I have. But what's cool here is in main.dart, we have a very simple app. It just it says import app.dart and just says run app. It doesn't have a lot of the comments that you have from what the normal Flutter create command gets you, right? The boilerplate Flutter project. This is my app kind of like stateless widget. This is the kind of high level widget that kind of encapsulates it encapsulates all screens I show on the screen. Like it establishes a material app, and you can run this material app, right? So this is where I define all my routes, my primary swatches, my primary theme, and instantiating my material app. Thirdly, I include home.dart. And so home is just home screen. It's a splash screen of the app. And what we're going to do is show just a button, 2 buttons, and some text. And I'll show you how that is actually going to work. Now, a bit about code organization, just to keep it very simple. I have a screens directory, and that's what some people call a screen is like a view that's full screen, right? It's every main route in my app. I call it a screen because it's very explicit that it is like the widget is a screen. Some people call it view, but it's whatever terminology you want. So I have a single screen here called home, and home is a stateful widget, and it just shows like the very basics, like an app bar with a screen with an app bar at the top, and it says home. So that's it. Let's get this running. So to get it running, I'm going to assume you have an emulator installed. If you don't, download Android Studio, or if you're on a Mac, make sure you have Xcode installed and a simulator set up, right? There's other videos that I have on how to install Flutter and stuff and install emulators, so go check those out. I'll include those in the show notes, but open up your emulator, and in Visual Studio Code, at least, I hit F5, and that's going to run the app, and it's going to attach to an emulator. You can also use your real device. If you attach it to a cable to your computer, that's going to run the app on your actual device, like real device. So it's going to compile my code. And let me move this over so you can see the phone. And it's going to compile main.dart. And while it's compiling, I'm just going to explain what we're going to do next, right? So right now it's going to just show a basic screen, and it's going to have home there. It's very boring. And first time I run it, it's going to ask me to open DevTools, Dart DevTools. This is another topic I can cover later, but DevTools is just it's a tool that lets you see the entire list of widgets, the tree of widgets that are being rendered via your web browser. But I won't get into that right now. And here we have just a basic screen. So in the next video, I'm going to show you how to kind of like make a actual web service call to a backend component. And then we're going to develop that backend component to actually return some data, and it's going to show it on the screen. Subsequently, we're going to learn how to deploy the backend web service code to Google Cloud Run. And then we're going to work with some databases. Maybe we want to use a database to store predefined data, and we'll get into how to use an actual database. So stay tuned. I hope you learned something about creating apps very quickly with Flutter Create, and stay tuned for the next video.